do I know? We could go on a campaign right now. I could call Mitt Romney's office. Do you think he would willingly and warmly give audience to a proposition of mathematically perfected economy? If you go back to the G.O.P debate a few days ago, you'll find he said one of the most stupid things I have ever heard. Every one of you should be pissed off that anyone should advocate such a thing. He said he hoped to get the economy going again so that the prices of our houses could go up again. Artificial inflation of costliness is not to our benefit. Every $100,000 home that you pay $500,000 for costs you an extra 4 homes just over the course of the term of your purported loan from the bank, which isn't a loan at all. The banking system merely intervenes upon your right to issue your promissory obligation free of exploitation, which would have avoided this whole issue. Our only problem is we have to decide exploitation or freedom from exploitation. Which is it? Why has it taken over 40 years for us to say, this is important? Do we have to lose our house first? Which we've already paid 3 houses for our 1 house, but the banking system, which has intervened upon our right to issue promissory obligations free of exploitation, wants another 2 houses from us. And we just can't keep up with that when their obfuscation of the currency has multiplied artificial indebtedness into a terminal sum of indebtedness, which is overtaxed industry and commerce to service the debt, making it impossible even for us to borrow further to maintain a vital circulation, which is the very reason we wouldn't even be this well off if it weren't that federal governments everywhere across the world are spending money into circulation hand over fist that they don't have. It's an endless stream of paper, indeed it is, and digital money as well. The material is no matter. But it's an endless stream because as the sum of debt increases, we're paying more principal and more interest out of circulation periodically, and that has to be reintroduced to circulation somehow, or down the tubes we go in the snap of your fingers. We owe so much against so much debt, and we're paying so much of every cent we can possibly earn towards servicing falsified debt multiplied by this obfuscation of the currency, that should they quit pouring money into circulation, we would be down la toilette by morning. You could see it in your books as soon as they flipped a switch to do such a thing. My God. All this, yes, it's to my supplier for my business who's barely hanging in there, but most of that is, I know that they've refinanced and they refinanced again and then they refinanced again, and they're just up to here in debt service costs. So that's what my bill's going toward. But when I pay that bill to my supplier, that money is going out of circulation to the banking system. Well, G. Edward Griffin tells us in his attempt to disprove my thesis of inevitable failure that we could just go and wash floors or wax floors at the bank and everything will be fine. But that's not true at all, because all of us have to be able to do that to the degree that we're servicing debt to keep that money in circulation. And that, my friends, is impossible for the banking system to consume from us, because this would mean that all proprietorship of property would be transferred to them, and because we're working all we can to service debt, all of our wages and salaries and whatever would go to the banking system plus interest, because all that only accounts for the principal. Plus interest. It's mathematically impossible that Griffin could possibly be right. And the actual fact is that he hasn't explained, but for the tiniest negligible extent, that some money doesn't return to circulation by reborrowing it. That idea is preposterous, and this is why Griffin is such a preposterous pretended authority. But it's because we have all these talking heads who don't have an answer, who only copied the things they might have understood from the one person with the answer, and are pretending that they should produce another 700-page book about this, which is, I'm sorry, the most gag-me, boring, disgusting, agonizing thing I've ever read in my life. It's just disgusting trash. And the result of it is empty mattresses in storefronts. That's something to think about, I think. So, I want to get into Griffin's book in some detail. I ordered this from Amazon.com. No, excuse me, from WorldNet Daily. There was an offer for it, and before I received the book, I had three copies of a magazine and a subscription to that magazine, which of course I never subscribed to, wasn't even informed of. Said I had by a certain time to cancel the subscription or I'd be billed for it, and that deadline was posted on the very paper that informed me of it, and it's not even there. The shipping for the book cost 3 times what the book did. The story goes on. What is all this about? I have a way which I've described before of digesting a work of any kind, and I'm not going to finish this book. I absolutely refuse to dignify it. The very first page that I opened it to was enough. Sometimes these things happen like divine providence. But beyond this method that I've described of, speeding through a book from its beginning to its end, and then, more difficult textbooks, then I'll, go halfway through the book, and, whatever, to some point, well into it, to like further, to give the so much as I care to, get a further perspective of, to let that take the form that it needs to take, and then I might go, a third of the way through the book, and a quarter of the way, and through the first 2 chapters, and then through the first chapter and the first 3 lessons, and then I'll go back to the first lesson, and lo and behold, college algebra textbook is Simple Simon to a 7-year-old. Actual truth. I'm not any smarter than you are. So, I also have another test for a book. That is, if I go to a library or I see a stack of books at a garage sale or whatever, reading is time, and if it's not teaching us anything, I don't read for amusement. But so if reading isn't teaching me anything, at least, I have no use for it. None. It's a waste of my life. So sometimes I want to find if a book has, substantial, sufficient value to myself. So like, I've just picked up the portable Thomas Jefferson here. There's some interesting stuff in here, but not so much worth a read. I've got another book here. It's called The Lincoln Reader. This is actually one of my favorite books of all time. It's edited by Paul M. Engel, and it's I suppose published by Rand McNally or Globe Library. That's what it says on the cover. It doesn't say it's published. Anyway, The Lincoln Reader. I grabbed it at a garage sale for like 25 cents, and I figured it would be useful, hopefully someday, to at least discover some literature or records that might indicate where I might find exhaustive material on Lincoln's thinking, which precipitated in the issuance of greenbacks. That was the original reason that I picked up the book, and that was many, many years ago. And in fact, I didn't pick it up for many years to read it until one evening. It was like 10 o'clock at night. I was, working on my website, and I think it was probably mid-1990s at the time, and suddenly got to a spot where I thought I'd take a look at the Lincoln Reader. An interesting thing about this book is it's as it says, it's edited by Paul M. Engel. You might say, in fact, it's assembled and edited by Paul M. Engel, but he just says edited. What he means by that actually is all of this book is actually the writings of the very writings of the people of the time. Lincoln's own cabinet, the victims of the other victims of the assassination. There's some fantastic accounts of events in the very words of Lincoln himself, and in the notes of his cabinet meetings, where a few weeks before he was fatally shot. He had a dream he heard all this sobbing in the White House, and he rose from his bed in the dream, and he wandered downstairs in his nightgown to this room where all these people were crowded into it, and there was a military guard waiting outside, and I forget exactly how the interaction occurs, but he might question this guard, what has happened, and he sensed that someone had died. There was a casket in the room, and I think he asked the guard who has died, and the guard told him the president. And he was this is of course a very brief account of this story, but evidently the vividness of the dream. I'm searching for the right word. I don't really want to say disturbed. We all have to die, and we may not give much pause to think about that, or at least so we go on with life. But at times, we may have come close to death ourselves, or and had some kind of experience which registers or somehow resonates with us in some I would say usually